What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Joel Culpepper Outdoors. I'm Joel Culpepper, and this is the guy I talk about a lot. He's the guy that got me into archery, and we're going to go shoot a 3D course today, so that video will come up after this because I actually have to edit that one. This one's just going to really just be raw footage that I'm going to put up. But what I wanted to talk about, and I know, I'm sorry that the camera's going to be kind of weird. I don't have somewhere to rest my phone, so I'm holding it. But what I wanted to talk about in this is arrows. So, yesterday I actually went and bought another dozen arrows for a new bow that you guys have not seen yet. So I guess this is going to be like the third video this year that's going to go up. When I get that one done, it's going to be like I got a new bow.
Yeah.
The third one this year because I don't spend my money on anything else. Anyways, I was buying another dozen arrows for this other bow, and it's a little bit faster than my Phase 4. And the guy that was helping me pick some arrows out, he had some type of computer program or algorithm where he could, plug in the speed and then the poundage, the draw length and everything, and the arrow weight, and actually get back, your actual speed and the kinetic energy and all that stuff. So we wound up running a couple of different numbers through there just to see what would happen. So I was shooting the Victory Rips and the 300 spine out of this bow. They're 437 grains, and I was getting 299 foot a second. So just under 300, and I wanted something a little bit faster just for my sight tape. The speed, faster your arrow is, the less it drops and things like that. So we wound up building an arrow that's 396 grains in a 300 spine, and the speed, I think the guy told me it would be like 316. I'm guessing more probably like 312, but it's definitely faster.
Get 20 foot per second faster than your rips.
And on top of that, he got to looking at the energy, the foot pounds, and it wound up, I think these are like 80, they're in the mid to high 80s for foot pounds, which is insane. Yeah. And we got to looking at it, and he was playing around with some different numbers, and he said if you go up to a 500 grain arrow, you'll drop like 50-60 foot a second and gain two pounds.
No way.
2 kinetic pounds. He said you peak at 460 grains. That's the perfect blend of speed and energy, where you will get the most energy is like 460, 475, I believe, out of most bows. 70, 75 pounds or so. So you've actually shot some FMJs.
I have a little bit. A buddy of mine shot some FMJs, and the things was so slow.
But
they had crazy kinetic energy. But truthfully, I wasn't a big fan. They weren't durable.
They weren't?
Not as durable.
I thought FMJs were like the most
supposed
durable.
to be. But my buddy shot them, and I saw him break several while I was with him.
On deer?
On targets.
Targets.
He was shooting targets, and he wasn't necessarily the best shot. But on the fact of what we're talking about today, I wonder if that was partly because of the way he had his arrow built versus how it was set up.
Your tune has a lot to do with it too. If your bow is not tuned.
This guy, I guarantee you, didn't tune his bow.
So there you go.
Maybe like one time.
So take and heed this advice before you do anything. Before you fine tune your arrows, get your bow tuned. Shoot a bullet hole through paper.
You need to get your bow tuned at least once per year, if not twice.
Yeah, always check it. And that paper tune, shoot it through paper. You want a bullet hole. And if your shop won't do it, go find someone that will, because that is very important. It's very important. And that's whether you're going to shoot a 650 grain arrow or a 350 grain arrow. You need your bow tune. But on top of that, where do you draw the line between speed and quote unquote penetration? Because when I was shooting last night, once I got like 80 yards with these arrows, the penetration wasn't a lot. It was very little penetration.
Yeah.
And the Victory Rips, which are only like 40 grains heavier, actually get probably 3 times as much penetration into the target. But I don't think it's as much the physical weight as it is the FOC. Because
the FOC on
the rips, yeah,
gonna be way higher.
Because it's got 160 grains in the front versus 118. So I think if you were going to dive into, like really, really fine tuning your arrows that you want to use, I think you would be better served to shoot like mine are 8.8 grains per inch, and then putting a 50 or 75 grain insert in the front.
Which you can, truthfully, when you're building your own arrows, you can get whatever grains you want on the front end.
Yeah.
When you're into the point of building your own arrows, you add extra weight to the front end, and you could get them shooting literally the same penetration as the others pretty easily.
So when it comes to that, I would rather shoot even like going down into a 7 grain per inch, like a Rip XV. I want to actually experiment with some of those. Maybe not this year, maybe next year, but I want to play around with some. I think they're like 7.1 grains per inch in a 300 spine. It's insane. But instead of shooting that with the 21 grain aluminum insert that it comes with, I would put like some 50 or 60 grain stainless or titanium inserts in the front and really boost that FOC. Because I would say that having weight in the front, not necessarily just a percentage of FOC, but just the weight in the front is more important than the physical weight of the arrow. Because you can take it and go into a shop. Let's say you were looking at Easton Axis, right? The 5 mil long range. They're like 10.7 grains per inch in a 300 spine.
They're slow.
And the Victory Rips, which are way cheaper, are 8.8. So you're talking about 2 grains per inch less. So 60 grains if you cut a 30-inch arrow, 60 grains less by just shooting a rip versus an Axis, which is insane.
It's pretty crazy.
And I guess your arrow build too needs to reflect what you're hunting. If you're hunting whitetail deer, a 350 grain arrow is going to kill that deer, as long as you don't hit him like square in the shoulder or something. But if you're hunting, if you're going to go to Africa and hunt the I can't think of what they call them. Yeah, wildebeest and stuff like that, you're probably going to want something like a full metal jacket. That's a lot heavier.
The story that comes to my mind, a guy that's from our church, that used to go to our church, he went to Africa one time hunting. And I'd love to know his arrow build setup because it had to be pretty high. He went out and he shot a antelope at 100 yards. Penetrated, killed the antelope. I haven't really went in depth with him about it, but he had to have an insanely high FOC to get that at that distance to really bury into that antelope.
Did he say if it was what arrow it was or anything? Like, you don't know anything about the arrow?
I've talked to people that talked to him. That's the deal. I never got to talk to him as much about it.
I got you.
But he's pretty insane though. He would have a really nice setup because he's one of the. When he shot it, there's a little small animal there, and he was one of the only 3 people in the world that's ever been able to hit one of them with a bow. Period. In history.
He might have been shooting like them. You seen them Easton Parallel Pros or what are the X10s?
It was some time back, so it wouldn't have been any modern.
No, I'm just asking if you've seen them. Like those are like $250 a dozen.
Ain't no telling.
Bare arrow, no fletchings on them. Like that's what Elk Shape's using this year. And then his cameraman is using the 6.0s. Cameraman's like me, he's cheap. But hey, I'm gonna say this too. I think When it comes to arrows, of course, I like lighter arrows. I hunted with 370 grains last year. I'm gonna hunt with these 396s and probably those 437 rips this year. And where was I going with that? Oh, I've been trying to do a lot more long range shooting not because I'm going to shoot deer at 100 yards, but if I can hit a target at 100 yards, I should be able to hit a deer at 40, right?
That's what my friend always has told me too. He said, whatever you're planning to shoot the animal at, whatever you're planning to go out and kill something at, he said you need to double that in your practice. Because when you get in that moment and your adrenaline's pumping, you're going to be twice as ready for that shot as you would if you shot that distance.
Make that 40-yard shot a chip shot.
Make sure you can shoot 80 if you're planning to shoot a deer at 40.
Yeah. So another thing I think people get too caught up on, and I think this is something that we actually disagree a little bit on. I think we get too caught up on the straightness of our arrows. Some people preach 1,000th straightness, and some people say that 3,000ths is the way to go. It's right in the middle. I've been shooting 6,000ths this year. That's what the victory rips are. And I sent you a picture of that group I shot at 100 yards. Do you think having a 1,000th straightness would make that group any tighter?
Well, it's more about the forgiveness that you get from it. I feel like, truthfully, I think you get more forgiveness from the 1,000ths than you would the 6,000ths.
See, and
people coming in, because as of me, as a lesser archer, when I swapped, there was a difference in forgiveness in the shot. Not necessarily. I think that it's going to be minimal. You're barely going to be able to see it, but every little bit counts.
So what you're saying is, if you're a beginner archer, you might notice a slight difference, but if you're a more experienced archer,
you ain't going to see as much difference,
if any. Because I've talked to, I'm not trying to downgrade your argument. I talked to, the not Valdosta bow shop guy, but other bow shop guy about this, and he said it's literally 5,000ths of an inch difference in straightness. 5,000ths. You will never see that. Just looking down the arrow shaft, you will never see it. And from what just talking to him about it, he said it's 5,000ths. That's so little of a difference that you just can't tell. Now, if it was like 5/10ths of an inch, maybe even 500ths, I could understand a little bit more.
I think here's another thing about it though too, is when you upgrade the arrow spine, the arrow companies knew they couldn't get a lot of sales from just the arrow spine.
Yeah.
It changed. They upgrade the components of the arrow with the higher grade arrows.
Well,
too, which makes a difference more. Like Gold Tip swaps their whole setup, their front end and back end of the arrow, when you upgrade to the 1,000th inch from the 3,000ths, and they upgrade the other components from the 6,000ths to the 3,000ths.
Now that's the Hunter XT versus the Hunter Pros, right?
Hunter XT, and Hunter Pro. They all upgrade, each tier upgrades.
So actually, most companies don't do that though. Most companies just pump out, like 1,000 arrow shafts, and then just, all out on the same machine, and then they just split them up into 3 categories. They do check them, however you check the straightness, but it's all the same batch from most companies, which I've never shot.
I'll say this too, also. You will see a difference if you cut your own arrows. That makes a lot more straightness than people think you would.
Yeah,
if you go to where you're cutting your own arrows, you can make it 6,000ths of 1,000ths. Almost, with you cutting it, because if you cut both ends off, that's going to in turn make it straighter. A buddy of mine that was probably the top archer I've ever almost the top archer I've ever shot with, he would do that, and his arrows would always be better than mine for some reason. But he was an arrow snob. He knew a lot about arrows when he was doing it. And he taught me that if you cut your own arrows and cut both sides, it's going to make it in turn a lot straighter.
Yeah, I think now I haven't tried it with the Gold Tips. I've tried it with Easton's.
I really feel like you should try a Gold Tip Hunter Pro sometime. just to try it?
I probably will at some point. Actually, I don't know. I'd have to think about it because I'm gonna change up my my target bow. You know, I'm shooting 100 XTs out of it.
Y'all don't shoot 100 Pros out of your target bow because it comes with the upgrade components.
Well, I might. I'm probably gonna go up like a 23 or 25 arrow instead of a standard diameter.
I know their components, like their knock and their front end, go to more of a target style setup almost.
Yeah.
On the knock and stuff than
What
100 XTs.
What I may do next year is actually build 2 different target arrows, do 2 of the same, because I know Victory actually does a 6,000ths and a 1,000ths, and I build like a half dozen of each and see if there's any difference. Because that would, I mean, you would think target arrows would actually have to have tighter tolerances than hunting arrows, because I mean you're competing for money, and you're shooting for lines sometimes. You know, having an arrow that flies straight is extremely important in target archery. So I may try that next year. But like I said, I mean, my opinion on it is it doesn't really matter. Of course, everything, I would say, more important than your arrow, more important than your bow, anything that has to do with your archery is your capabilities. So get out and shoot and become the best archer you can be, and then start trying to make these decisions.
All these things are going to make minimal changes. If you're not a good shot, you can shoot the best setup in the world, and you're not going to shoot good.
I mean, you look at. Go ahead.
But if you're a really good archer, everything's going to make a tiny difference. And if you let all them tiny differences come together at the end, you're going to see a result at the end. But just one change, just say changing from 6,000ths to 1,000ths, you may not even hardly be able to see the change. But if you add that with all these other things like tuning your bow properly and all these other things, you're going to see a major difference in the end result.
Yeah. So I think a really good example of this, if you go back and watch Chris B's videos where he built the Mission Hammer, he took that bow with a whisker biscuit and was shooting for the tack truck. You remember that? And how many guys out there have a brand new, like I reckon now you'd say the Matthews Lift with a Q80 integrate, an XL Pro on the front bridge lock, a 2-piece or 1-piece Matthews quiver, bridge lock stabilizer and back bar, like, you know, the best of the best that you can get, and still can't shoot as good as Chris B can with a budget bow at 100 yards. And it's not that Chris B's bow is better. I mean, it's not. I mean, if you put a Mission Hammer in my hands versus like my V3X 33 or Phase 4 or whatever, I will shoot circles around that hammer.
Yeah.
I may not shoot quite as bad as I did a couple years ago because, you know, I practiced a lot. I've got a lot better as an archer. But
everything long-term shooting, you have more hand shock with the Mission Hammer. You have more fatigue because of the different grip. Everything about it's different, and it's going to wear you out faster than it would with the Phase 4 or the V3X.
And I think what it comes down to now, if you have a Mission Hammer, go outside and shoot that bow. You know, don't sit inside, woe is me, because I couldn't buy a Lift 33 or, you know, a Phase 4 last year or whatever. Just go outside and shoot your bow, you know, and then as you get better, you appreciate the upgrades. It's like when I went from the Mission Switch. You remember when I bought that Elite Envision? I probably called this dude like the first week I had it. I think I did, and I told you, like, I'm shooting 50-yard groups.
Yeah, you were
like
telling me how much different it was.
Like, it was insane. And when I got back like to 60 yards and start like with the Mission, if I hit a piece of paper at 60, I thought I was doing something. Yeah. And that's how I actually used to practice. I would take something the size of a piece of paper and put it up and just try to hit it every time at 60 yards. Now, if you told me to do that, I'd be like, well, how many times you want me to do it? You know, I could shoot all my arrows and do that, and then go pull them and do it again. And does the bow make a difference? Absolutely. But my skills make a big difference too.
You could do it now probably with the Mission.
Yeah, I could probably shoot that Mission better now than I could shoot that Elite when
Granted,
I first got
when
it.
you got your Mission, where did you buy your Mission from?
Life Outdoors.
Life Outdoors, okay. So it was tuned good and
Was not paper tuned.
was not paper
Bow
tuned.
was not paper tuned.
Big difference.
Now, my Phase 4 is paper tuned. And this new bow I've got back here that you guys haven't seen yet is paper tuned as well. And the V3X isn't paper tuned, but I'm pretty sure if it doesn't shoot a bullet hole, it's real close just because of how it groups and everything.
Yeah,
it's so
gotta be
close. You know, if I had the stuff to tune my own bows, if I had a press and everything, I would definitely do it. I just don't right now. Maybe in the future. I will probably in the future because I don't like having to go everywhere. Because if I go into a bow shop to get something done to my bow, guess what I do? I buy stuff.
Yeah.
So if I quit going to the bow
And
shop,
now you got 3 bows, so you got to go plenty of extra times.
Mama, I just told Mama yesterday about this new bow. I've had it for a week.
You ain't told her yet?
No, I told her yesterday, and she actually wasn't mad at me.
She wasn't mad at you?
No, because I told her I traded the Elite for it. That's actually why I got this other bow, which you can kind of see it in the back here.
You can
Sneak
tell
peek.
You can tell what it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can see.
You know it kind of.
What? I mean, you guys, if you have watched any of my videos in the past 6 months, there's pretty much only one brand of bow that I've shot.
And you can ask Joel. I told him when he started shooting bows where he would end up. He denied it for years.
Well, I will say this, and I'm not arguing with you. I've been shooting Matthews now for 6 months, ever since I got to Phase 4. Now I've got 2 other Matthews. I've got 3 total. And I guarantee you, if there had been a VTM 34 in that shop that day, I would have bought the VTM instead of the Phase 4. Do I regret buying the Phase 4? Absolutely not. But see, I shot a Venom 30 the other day, and it was awesome.
Yeah, they make great bows.
The only reason I didn't buy that bow, and I actually bought this other one instead, partially this bow was still brand new, and I got it under cost.
Mm-hmm.
And they set it up everything for free. That was part of it. And I didn't like the rest that was on that VTM, but the draw cycle was great on it. It really was. And there's another thing about Matthews that I think Prime is the only other company that does a mod-based system.
Mm-hmm. They are.
And now I don't know if Prime has like the switch weight mods, or if they have that on limbs.
I think that's on limbs. I could be wrong.
But like, you know, every other company, Elite, Hoyt, Bowtech, all of these other companies are limb-based weights. You know, if you have a 70-pound bow, you want to go to 80 or 60, you have to buy a new limb set, which is like $300 for the limbs, probably another $100 for labor. So you're talking about $400. Or if you have a Matthews, you can go into just about any shop that carries Matthews, and they'll swap mods, no charge. Some places will charge you.
Yeah.
But
not every place.
yeah, most places will not. So you can have, like with the Phase 4, if you wanted to shoot it, you know, during hunting season at 70, 75 pounds, that's cool. And then on the off season, if you just wanted to drop your poundage 60, 65, that's cool. Just take and unscrew the mods and put the other mods in. That's all there is to it. And now with the lift, it's 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80. So you have a huge range of weights that you can actually
Pretty
go
amazing
through.
that Matthews went to 80 pounds.
And it's all on the same limb set.
Same limb set.
So
That's probably a benefit that they was able to bring in because of them having 8 limbs instead of 4.
yeah,
That's probably a benefit of that.
and they couldn't do it with the Phase 4, probably partially because of the cams.
And they also
everything.
test for the future. They're probably
Yeah.
giving it an extra year to test it.
Yeah, so now this is going to be a little bit more controversial right here, okay? So this is me and my I guess my friend. I guess you're my friend. Anyways, this is us just kind of, shooting the breeze, killing time, swapping ideas back and forth. If I had to buy a brand new bow in 2024, I would not buy the Lift. I would buy the Hoyt Alpha X. Now, I don't like the Alpha X that much, but I don't like the Lift. I dislike the Lift more than I dislike the Alpha X.
You're meaning with the bows you have right now?
Compared to what I have now.
You just bought a new bow on top of your bows, or are you buying a bow?
If I had to change all my bows over, or if I was just buying a brand new bow, I would probably get the Hoyt over. Honestly though, and I haven't shot one, I would probably go with PSC this year. With that Mach 30. I talked to Will,
I feel like you would go with Bowtech.
I couldn't go with Bowtech this year. I shot the Core SS. I didn't like it.
Good.
No.
Wasn't as good as last year?
Mm-mm. Well, even like the SS34 is still really smooth, but the draw cycle on it is different. And there's actually been a lot of guys that shot Matthews for years. When they go in to buy their new bow this year, they buy a Hoyt.
Really?
Yeah, when I talked to Jeremy about it, he said that, or actually Stephanie, she said that she's had more people switch from Matthews to Hoyt this year than any other year in the past.
Wow.
So
what was the difference in the Lift and the phase work? Because I haven't shot the Lift.
So the Lift, to me, when I shot it, and now this is another thing, go to a shop that will switch the draw lengths for you, because if you don't, you're going to be upset. And I didn't shoot one set at my draw length. Now I shot the 29 set at 28 inches, or 29 and a half at 28 inches. So I shoot 29 and a half inch draw on Matthews. I shoot 30 inch every other bow, and that's the truth. That's honestly how it is. If I shoot 29 and a half in a Hoyt or a Bowtech, it doesn't feel right. If I shoot 30 inches on Matthews, it's a little too long. That's the truth of it. But I shot the Lift 29 and a half at 28 inches, and it felt pretty good. I shot the 33 at probably like 28 inches, and I just couldn't do it. The draw cycle was so stacked in the front. As soon as you pulled like into the initial front, it just backwalled immediately. So,
gotcha.
And some people probably like that, and
we probably expected that with the new cam system anyway.
Well, I expected it to be harsher throughout the draw cycle, and
just the back wall,
with it just falling into the back wall so hard. It was a hard back wall.
Was it similar to what we like the Venom and the V3?
I never shot the V3.
Never shot the V3?
No, I never shot the V3.
The V3 had a harsh back wall.
But, I don't mind a harsher back wall, but this one, it fell into it so hard. It was insane. You watching you? Okay, just making sure. Sorry about that. But the Hoyt was kind of the opposite. It was pretty soft in the front, but when you got halfway through, it stacked the weight on, which I don't like that, which is why I say I would probably pick PSC this year. I feel like PSC is probably, next to Matthews, has probably done the best job of making a new bow this year. And I think Hoyt picked a bad year to release the Alpha X, because they cut out like 0.3 of a pound or something, 2 or 0.3, which is crazy.
That's a long way.
But Matthews cut out 0.4 of a pound and made a sub 4 pound aluminum bow. So Hoyt just had a bad release year, I think. PSE knocked it out of the park with the Mach 30. Everybody I've heard talk about the Mach 30 is like it's the greatest thing in the world.
I'd like to go shoot it.
I would too. Probably next time I go to Powerhouse, I'll ask them to slap a whisker biscuit on one. But now in like 3 or 4 years, let them get down, to $1,000. I might pick one up if I need a new hunting bow, if I think it's time to upgrade.
Right now, you'd be spending way too much on anything.
$1,800 for a carbon bow. Now, I just don't see the benefit in a carbon bow for me. We're hunting. What temperature is it on opening day of bow season here?
Maybe 80 or 90.
Oh no, like I would say 95. I'd say 95 degrees plus.
Giving it a good year.
Yeah, and I mean we're walking in the woods. I know when you're in bow season. Just before I got a compound, I was hunting with the crossbow. I was walking into my stand, and when I got to my stand, I think I actually sent you a picture of this. There were so many mosquitoes that had bit me. My face was swelling up bad. I don't know if I did see
you sent me that one.
But it was insane how many mosquitoes there were that day. Now part of that's because I was hunting in a swamp, but that's bow season in South Georgia. It's gonna be 90 degrees, 100 degrees in the middle of the day, and if you get a day where it's gonna be 60 in the morning, you better be in the stand because that's where they're gonna move.
I would swap over. The only thing with carbon is a few companies have actually made light carbon bows. Like PSC has been known to make a light carbon bow, and for me, I'm walking a mile and a half sometimes to my hunting spots because I'm a public land hunter, and then few extra ounces do make a huge difference. It's like the bow thing. It's not like, I mean, you're not going to tell if you just swap your bow, but I've swapped my whole setup to be ultra lightweight. I carry sticks in that weigh that's right at a pound a piece. All my climbing sticks. Everything I take in, I do one stick in because it's lighter. I do everything, and every little bit I take out makes a big difference. So swapping over to a light bow would help me out some.
Because walking 200 yards to your tree stand is way different from walking a mile back in the woods carrying.
You can ask Joel. I've took him with me before.
Well, you remember when I went on I did that scouting by myself in Moultrie? Yeah, that was rough. I did that fast, and I liked it. I'll put it this way: the first time I hunted public land by myself was back about 3 or 4 years ago. And I didn't know what I was doing. I asked my parents for a climber for Christmas, heavyweight climber. And when I got that heavyweight climber, I was so proud. It weighed like 18 pounds. That's pretty light though for a climber. I had 18 pounds, and I had my backpack full of all my gear, my bow. I had my grunt calls, everything with me. And I walked a mile in the woods with that all on my back. And you was tired. A mile, and then I had to hook. Actually, it wasn't a climber. I'm sorry, I'm mistaken. My first time out in public land, I had a, what's this car doing? I have no idea.
This car in the middle of the road. I took my lock on that weighed 17 pounds.
Yeah.
And I had 3 sticks with me that each weighed 3 pounds. It's each weighed like 2-3 pounds. So I ended up having like 27 pounds on me without my bow. And so by the time I got a mile back in the woods, I had to set my sticks up. I was so dead I couldn't even enjoy my hunt.
Yep. And that's why these lighter weight bows and stuff are so appealing. Now to me it's not as big of a deal, but now I don't public land hunt that much. I might do 2 hunts a year public land, and I mean that's just not my thing. But at that, like when I was buying that Consequence, I still miss that bow. That's bad, but I do miss that bow. I don't regret getting rid of it because of the reasons, but that bow just fit me real good. Anyways, when I was buying that bow and I was talking to Jeremy about it, he said the only differences you're really going to notice is weight. And then he had to think about it. He said, well, no, you're really not going to be that much heavier on this bow, like maybe 1/10 of a pound or less than most 29.5-inch bows. And then he had to think about it again, and he said maybe speed, but of course I'm not too concerned with IBO. That doesn't matter to me. But I mean, to me, a bow, the weight of a bow, I said weight to me doesn't really matter. And that's just because of the type of hunting that I do. I prefer my bows to be a little bit lighter, like my target bow with the back bar on it. I've considered taking the back bar off just to make the bow lighter because I shoot a lighter bow.
Taking the ounces off too?
It's only got 2 ounces on it.
Only got 2 ounces.
Yeah, it's
How heavy
light.
is your bar?
Maybe, I don't know, 6 to 7 ounces, maybe a little bit more. It's a 12-inch Control Freak. But I like a little bit, I like a lighter bow. That's why I don't run back bars on my stuff. And really when you're hunting, I would rather, see, I've started running those harmonic dampeners from Axion. I think that's a better way to get weight on your hunting bow because it doesn't make your bow wider. It doesn't make your bow taller. And it takes away vibration. It makes your bow quieter. It's a pretty good deal if you ask me. But, you know, to each their own. I'm not going to say that I've got the best hunting bow set up in the world. But, you know, I think I'm going to cut it off there because it's already been like 35 minutes. And we're fixing to get out in a few minutes and shoot. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Maybe you got something from it. So, everybody, y'all stay safe. Stay in the outdoors. God bless you, and I'll catch you on the next one.